Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Dark Souls 3 Ashes of Ariandel. This, unfortunately, is gonna be a post commentated episode. Well, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't really like doing post commentary, but I know I've had comments of people telling me that they kind of like post commentary. Basically, what happened is I shouldn't do this really, but I was in a rush to record an episode yesterday, and in my rush, I forgot to turn off my mic. It's probably the worst way to lose quote unquote audio for a recording, but well, what can you do? So we're gonna go post commentary. Because it is post commentated, I decided to cut a little bit out of the episode. There were a lot of deaths throughout this episode. So I thought, you know what? If I'm post commentating, I might as well cut some of the more um, like annoying deaths out, so it doesn't take up as much time. We can actually get to the action, and here's death number one. Um, I did not last long after starting my recording. These guys, it turns out, are called Millwood Knights, and they might be the most annoying enemy in the game. Definitely in the DLC. Um, they're super fast. They hit really hard, and for some reason they always put them in like these tight spaces where like you're not really supposed to fight these types of large enemies in such tight spaces. At least I think, but well, they're certainly challenging. I'll give them that. So first time taking this shortcut, and I don't know why I decided to do this, but I decided to be an idiot and go ahead and explore. I mean, technically, I only had like 20 something thousand souls there, which at this stage isn't even enough for a level, but thinking back, it would have been better if I saved it. Oh well. Watching back, these types of recordings, you always tend to notice your mistakes more. But basically, I was looking around here. This is where I died a lot in this area. And it turns out it was kind of for nothing because there's only a weapon here. And yeah, this is... See, they always put these Millwood Knights in these like really tight spaces. And look how much damage they deal. And for how much damage they deal, they are incredibly fast. You saw he did that attack where he pulled his weapon out of the ground. I decided, well, yeah, okay, this is the first edit. I died to this guy like 3 more times. I decided to cut that out. But that attack is very similar to the Stone Guardians they had in Artorias of the Abyss. Kind of works on the same idea, except when he pulls his hammer out of the ground, it actually hits behind him as well. And the other thing is it's much, much faster. Like, this Millwood Knight can recover very quickly after doing that earthquake attack. But what can you do? I started figuring out how to fight them. At first I didn't think you could backstab them, but it turns out you can. So you just have to be well positioned to be able to do it. And of course, I straight up get squashed. And this is the type of weapon that tends to be pretty crap if you're using it. I did get it in the end. I think it's called the Millwood Hammer or something. But yeah, it looks fancy in their hands, but I don't know. I don't know if it's any good. I feel like these types of attacks, these like ground explosion attacks, are very situational. Like the chances of you hitting someone in PvP with it are kind of low. So I finally got him. They drop large shards, just like pretty much every enemy in this DLC. And they drop a fair bit of souls. So what I thought I would do, since I am post-commentating here, is we might as well go into some of the lore that we have discovered from the DLC so far. Of course, I'm not finished yet. I have one more episode recorded after this that I just recorded. I'm not gonna spoil what I did there, but in terms of lore, we got some interesting stuff. So obviously this is a painted world. And well, so far we've gotten more lore on the enemies inside it. So we have the followers. The followers actually tie into the Watchdogs of Farron Covenant, as well as the Abyss Watchers. So we kind of get... Well, we've had, you know, like exposition that the Abyss Watchers were always followed by a large army of kind of like fanatics. I don't know who or what, where we get that information from, but I do remember reading about it. So the followers are essentially that group. They are, you know, and I died again. They are kind of lesser soldiers that follow the Abyss Watchers. And of course, we find out that their actual purpose is to kill those members of the Abyss Watchers who fall to the Abyss. So that's really interesting. I guess it's like a system of checks and balances, you know. Like, the Abyss Watchers need to be checked as well. So that's what we learn about the followers. At least that's my interpretation. I mean, the lore is pretty clear. The other information we get is, of course, on the Millwood Knights, which I'll get into in a bit. I'll pick up the Millwood Hammer, or no, the Millwood Axe soon. But first we gotta fight this guy again. And I managed to backstab him up the ledge, which is very interesting. Don't exactly know how I managed to do that. But I mean, it dealt damage. That's all I care about. But yeah, now once you kind of recognize their pattern, they are easier to beat. But I'm still having trouble with the other one, the one that uses the axe. Not the axe that makes the earthquakes, but the one down there that has the shield as well. He's weird because he looks like a large enemy and behaves like a large enemy. Yet he attacks pretty much at the same speed as a normal, like, hollow or human-sized enemy. Of course, he hits really hard. And this is where I decided, you know what? Screw these guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and see what's here. And it turns out it's only an item. So this is what I was talking about. If I'd known that this was just an item, I would have just ran here straight away. Of course, I didn't. So this is gonna be our first bit of information on the Millwood Knights. And there's some interesting stuff on them. I like, you know, when we get lore information on these other lands that exist in the world. I think that's always cool. It just flashes out the whole world and makes it feel, yeah, like I said, fleshed out. So this is the description. I'm not going to read it because I'm probably not going to be able to match my reading speed exactly in post-commentary. But essentially we find out that this is a ceremonial axe, and that the Knights of Millwood were primitive earth worshippers. So it kind of reminded me of like Forosa from Dark Souls 2. You know, kind of like a very warrior and battle-focused nation. And these guys, of course, worship the earth, which does explain all their equipment and things. So we're gonna head back and actually proceed on with the game. Let's talk more about the lore. So obviously, I'm gonna go into speculation territory. Probably we'll find out more once once I complete the DLC. But obviously we are in a painted world. And we gained access to this painted world from a fragment of the painting. Now, I don't really know yet if this is Ariamis or if it's a different painting. But there are, of course, definite similarities. The church, of course, the bridge. One of the buildings that I saw from the cliff even looks similar to the building where you fight Priscilla. Or meet Priscilla, depending on whether you actually kill her or not. So my theories right now, and I'm hoping we'll find out by the end of the DLC, my theory is that this is either actually Ariamis. What's a possibility is maybe Ariamis was damaged or just like lost. Maybe since there like only fragments of it remain, the land looks different because the full painting is not complete. Or the other thing I can think of is maybe someone made a copy of Ariamis and they decided to like make some changes to it. I don't know. Hopefully we find out. Or it could be that this is an entirely new world, but I don't think so. Like, it would be very weird if they made like a whole entire separate painted world that was also snowy, also had similar buildings, so I don't know. Yeah, that wolf was feeling suicidal. Interestingly, well, not interestingly, I wanted to talk about the bosses for the DLC, even though I haven't met either one of them. We kind of... I know that there are only 2 bosses. I've read that in all of the reviews, and I think we've seen both of them in the trailers. Which, I don't know, it's kind of weird if they decided to spoil both of the bosses. One of them is... He's basically like this, just like this knight type character. He looks like an NPC. So I guess he's kind of gonna be like Maria or someone, you know, someone who is similar to the player. And he's accompanied by a giant wolf. So haven't met that guy yet, but I think that's definitely one of the bosses. Should be interesting. You know these bosses where you have to tackle more than one enemy can kind of go either way with Souls games. They're either gonna be brilliant, like Ornstein and Smo, or the Twin Princes, or one of those, or they can be pretty terrible, like the 2 cats from Dark Souls 2. So hopefully this guy with the wolf is gonna be the latter, or I mean the former. He's gonna be a good boss because... Well, first, well, I want all the bosses to be good, but... I don't know, like I said, multi-enemy boss fights can go either way. So far the ones in Dark Souls 3 have been really good, I think. So I'm hopeful. And the other boss, from what I've seen in the trailer, is that guy who's dressed in the crow outfit. Well, guy, we don't actually know if that's a guy or not. Some people were speculating that it might be Velka, which honestly I would find kind of strange. I mean, I almost at this point want to never see Velka in a Souls game because they've kept her so mysterious, you know, that I would honestly prefer if Velka never showed up because it would just like add to the mystery. And this is the place I didn't really know how to tackle and still don't really know how to tackle. There is a guy shooting great arrows which explode, and in front of him is a guy with the shield and axe. And at first I was like, okay, you know what, we'll just lure away the guy with the axe and fight him one-on-one, I decided to buff up as well. Turns out doesn't quite work that way, because he doesn't actually aggro that far, as you can see. So I kind of was unsure of how to tackle this, because that like exploding arrow is looks pretty annoying, and I died before I could even think. Yeah, I think the ones with the small axe are a lot more difficult to kill than the ones with the great hammer. But yeah, back to what I was talking about. So I kind of wish excuse me. I kind of wish they would never show Velka, which I think they might do. Who knows? But of course, that leaves the question of who that guy actually is. I know people were speculating that it might be Allfather Lloyd, because he's holding a lord vessel, and he kind of seems to be. Oops! I just knocked into my mic stand. He is holding a lord vessel, and he seems to be flailing himself. So who knows? But that's gonna be, I think, boss number 2. So we'll see how it is. I'm curious of the difficulty as well. We'll find that out when we get to them. So I'm making my way back to where I died. I'm gonna take a different approach this time. It's an approach I've taken several times throughout the DLC so far. And that is the run past them approach, which works quite well. These wolves, I've never managed to not get them to howl. Not these ones, but the ones a bit further up. And I almost died there. I didn't even notice that at the time. You know, sometimes you don't even notice how close you are to death when you're playing. You're just glad you survived. I don't know why I went after that one. I don't think he was gonna come back after me. And now, of course, I've aggroed more of them on me. There's gonna be another one that... Yep, there you go. These ones seem kind of content on jumping to their deaths. But I do like the wolf AI in this game. I'm really happy that they didn't just make them dogs, because they could have done the thing, you know, where they just gave them the AI of the dogs from the main game. But they actually changed it up and made them behave a lot more differently and a lot more like actual wolves. And that is important, you know. I got hit by this, and I can see this being kind of annoying. Don't know how effective it actually would be in PvP. You know, these things, you have to try them out pretty much before you can make a decision. I don't know if that's like, and this is shortcut number 2. I don't know if that's like the weapon skill of that great bow, or if it's a special type of arrow, or if it's even available to the player. Anyways, at first I thought that this would be a boss room, because it certainly looks like it. But it turns out it's not. We have more of these flies. And someone pointed out that those things on the ground and on the walls actually looks like eggs. You know, like fly eggs or something. That's what it probably is, honestly. You know, we've had like some hint going back to the lore, like from that Corvian in the village, that this painted world is rotting And apparently what we're supposed to do is set it on fire to cleanse it, which is pretty interesting. I'm guessing that's the end goal of the DLC. And by the way, these flies spew the same thing as those enemies in the Cathedral of the Deep. You know, it sticks these worms on you and they build up bleed. So, same idea. Of course, you can just use the torch to get rid of it. I don't know how he didn't see that ambush coming. Good thing I didn't fall down. So yeah, this is a pretty common enemy. They're not actually that difficult to kill, as you can see, but you'll see a little bit later how they can get kind of dangerous. I was kind of debating on whether I should jump down or not, but I was like, you know what? That's probably gonna get me killed, so we're not gonna risk it. And this, well, you'll see, but as soon as I saw this door, I was like, I know where exactly this leads. We've essentially come full circle, through the Corvian village, up the mountain, and back here. So at this stage I was like, okay, that's cool, but what the fuck do you have to do? I think she also has new dialogue.
Be forewarned, eager Ash. Should this world wither and rot, even then would Ariandel remain our home. Leave us be, Ashen One. Sweep all thought of us from thy mind, as thy kind always have.
I like how she doesn't even care. She doesn't even care that we killed her knight. But it seems like there are like two opposing sides here. One that is happy to let the painted world rot and still live in it, while the other one wants to cleanse the rot with fire, which is interesting. I just came out here to see if the knight is actually there, and because I wanted to test something. Something that turned out to be true. I felt like from the beginning that this bridge was extremely similar to the one in Smoldering Lake, or the one leading to Smoldering Lake. So I decided to test my theory, and I was correct. Didn't go down because I wanted to kind of finish up here. I thought that I might as well see, since I'm so close to the bonfire, I might as well see what's down there. What happens if you drop down. Turns out it wasn't the smartest idea, or maybe just like my execution wasn't the best, because there are a million of these flies down here, and they can overwhelm you pretty easily. They don't do a lot of damage, but after a while it just starts building up, and this is how, I don't know what dealt that much damage to me, but holy shit. And as I died, that's where I saw it. I saw that there's a switch there. So I was like, that's interesting. Let's go and check it out. Good thing I saw that as well, because if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't have gone back there. Because I would have been like, what's the point of going back there? Except for the items. I still don't know what's down there. I decided to take a different approach here. One that's been working out pretty well for me. And that is just to use a homeward bond to get the fuck out of there. Because I remember that in this game, switches do give you invincibility. Unlike in Dark Souls 2. So I was like, you know what? Might as well use that to my advantage. I was kind of trying to locate the switch. as well as my souls. Didn't know these guys have a grab attack though. That's kind of annoying. But luckily, invincibility is there to save me.
As ashes will be, ever seeking fire.
So based on what she says there, yeah, I got grabbed again. I didn't think I would actually survive this, but yeah, I did. And thank fuck Homeward Bones are that quick. So yeah, what I wanted to say is based on her dialogue, I actually think that wherever that leads is gonna be where we find the fire to cleanse the painted world. So with that, we are gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode here. I warped back to Firelink Shrine. I did some other things, but in terms of important stuff, I think that's gonna be it. Wanna thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Dark Souls 3, Ashes of Ariandel, and goodbye.